combating nutrition disinformation and general bull. It's Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another Instagram Live and another episode of Jimmy Rants. If you're new to the show, we do this twice daily, once in the morning, once in the afternoon on Instagram Live. So if you're not following me on Instagram, go follow me at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN on Instagram. And then it's up there for 24 hours. And so once it's up there for 24 hours, it then we pop it over to YouTube so that you can see the video forever on YouTube. And then we just released the brand new Jimmy Rants podcast. So go subscribe on your favorite podcast format. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's going to Stitcher and all the Google Play everywhere, Spotify, sometime soon in the next couple of days. So be looking for that, but go check it out. JimmyRants.com is the website. So today's Jimmy Rants episode is all about this topic of keto foods. So sometimes you'll see people get out there on social media, especially, and say, well, that's not a keto food. That's not keto. You know, they say all these things about how people, post things on there. Well, that's not keto. And they have this notion that there are certain foods that are deemed keto and other ones not. And I think at the end of the day, we need to start looking at food as simply food. And what one person consumes on their keto diet that helps them get into nutritional ketosis and helps them lower their blood sugar levels and helps them get all of the benefits that come from being keto, it has very little to do with the actual foods that they eat and more to do with how their body reacts to those foods. So if somebody posts something that you don't think is keto because it's not keto for you, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not keto for them. And we have to remove this whole notion of there's keto foods, there's non-keto foods. Obviously, if you're having refined grains, refined sugars, refined starches, and all of that kind of thing, those are probably not considered keto foods for just about anybody. But then you have things that are kind of on the borderline that some people who are more insulin sensitive can handle versus some people who are more insulin resistant that cannot handle. And so things like sweet potatoes or more starchy carbohydrates. And if someone's an athlete and they're using those things strategically in their training, well, that's not keto, but for that person, as long as they're producing ketones, yes, it is. So I think we need to stop looking at the food and saying there's no such thing, you can't have that. You can't eat that particular food. I think that's wrong the way we're doing this. What we need to be saying is, how is that food helping you or harming you towards your pursuit of nutritional ketosis? Because if it's being a detriment, then obviously it's not a good food for you on your keto approach. Whereas that exact same food might be perfect for someone else on their ketogenic approach. So, looking at other people's keto, well, you're not doing keto right. That's not keto. We got to stop that. And I think what we do is encourage people, okay, you ate that food. How did it affect your ketones? And then if they say, well, I had a 1.3 before I went into eating that food, and then after I ate the food, I tested and it was a 1.4. That's a good response. Okay, that person, that food did not negatively impact them. And it's correlated with their blood sugar levels too. So they ate a food and blood sugar maybe went up 5 points. No big deal. That's pretty typical. So are you guys seeing that a lot where people say, oh, that's not keto, and they try to be judgmental? So what I want people to look at is keto isn't about the food. It's about the reaction to the food. So why are we identifying foods as, quote, keto? You know, obviously you can say, well, butter's a keto food, or meat, fatty meat is a keto food. Coconut oil is a keto food. You could go down the list. Avocados are a keto food. And while I would say they're keto friendly, I would not describe them specifically as keto. It's a semantical game we're playing here, but it's one that has a great distinction, that we need to not give judgment on people because they're choosing a food that we wouldn't necessarily eat in our keto life, but maybe it fits in their keto life. All right, let's see what you guys have to say about this topic of there's no such thing as a keto food, responding to the That's Not Keto crowd. Welcome in, welcome in. Lily Grand, yes, you did catch a live. Thanks for being here. Thank you so much. Paula Johnson 61 says, keto is a state of being, food is fuel. I like the way you put that. I would even say keto is a metabolic state. And it really has very little to do with the nutrition you eat, as much as it does the reaction to the nutrition that you eat. So as I've stated before, there's people that can eat sweet potatoes and they still show ketosis. We hate those people, those of us that are insulin resistant, but for those of us who are insulin resistant and we have a greater response to carbohydrate, greater response in our blood sugar, which diminishes our blood ketones, we know that that's not on our keto. So when you talk about bio-individuality of people and what their tolerance level to carbohydrate is, some people can tolerate more, some people have to eat less. And that's why this notion of a keto food or a not keto food is just silly. Gerald Mobstom says, yeah, you're right, LOL, and thanks for commenting on my post of transformation. Appreciate it. You're welcome, man. You are a rock star. You need to be doing Instagram lives. Mama Ors says, so true, Jimmy. I'm learning from you to respond better to what people are eating. And I think if we supported each other in our nutritional choices, that some people need a higher fat, maybe some people can have a higher protein and or higher carbohydrate intake and still be in a ketogenic state. I think that's the way to go. Support each other rather than being in condemnation of that's not keto. I'm seeing that way too much in the ketogenic community. Paula says it's about sustainability, feast and fast, times of celebration. Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And even supporting people when they choose to go off plan. Okay, that's not keto, but that was their choice. That was their choice. That's what they wanted to do. They made a conscious effort to do it. They're not, quote, falling off the wagon and all the other nonsense that we put out there when people don't eat the way we think they should. It's all a part of the same journey. And so if it's, quote, not keto, okay, they made that choice. And hopefully they get back on plan again if they eat something that's way off. But at the end of the day, it's about what the ketones say on the meter. So check that. I'm going to start testing ketones and glucose after food more often, trying to refine my keto. And that is a great thing. I did a whole Jimmy rants the other day about why I think everybody should be testing their blood sugar. So go back and watch that at jimmyrants.com if you missed it. Sherry Smiles says, some people say no gluten at all. Others say low carb gluten like tortillas are okay. Same with different kinds of artificial sweetness. One is bad, one's okay, etc. Yeah. And I am not one to judge other people's keto, because what I choose to do has come from a lot of testing, has come from a lot of personal experimentation and seeing what works for me, and having the knowledge of that and going through the kind of refining process that Lila Grand was just talking about. I think that is kind of the journey. Everybody kind of comes to low carb keto with preconceived notions, and they come into it and then they go, oh my gosh, if I just add this element, maybe it gets better, and I add this element. So everybody's on their journey, and you have to think of it as a bunch of people that have learned how to drive. Okay, so you have people who have been driving for 50 years. You have people that this is the first day they're in driver's education. So not everybody's on the same path at the same time, and we have to be kind to that 16-year-old behind the wheel that we're afraid is going to run us over in the car in driver's ed. And we also need to be kind to the people that have been doing this a while and realizing they have wisdom that perhaps they could share with us about the journey. So I think we all have the varying levels that we're on, and we need to be respectful and kind to each other. Leslie Zadig says, I love your new book. Thank you. Real Food Keto is what it's called. realfoodketo.com. Go check it out. People don't understand why I can't eat certain foods because of my insulin resistance. And I would reframe it from being can't eat to I choose not to eat. And when you let people know you're making a choice, it shows you have the power. When you have the word can't, it sounds like you are powerless, that I can't. You could physically eat it, but you're choosing, because you care about your health, not to. I'm scared of what gluten and other artificial sweeteners will do to our gut health. I mean, that's one reason to probably stay away from those kinds of things for you, and you've made that choice and you've had that knowledge. So if you're just joining us, we're talking about why there is no such thing as a keto food, and where we're responding to the that's not keto crowd. There's a lot of kind of that's not keto commentary being made out there on social media. And so we did this Jimmy Rants episode here today to kind of help with that. Gerald says, like in a post, a person said that heavy whipping cream isn't keto because it has certain ingredients. I think they're probably referring to carrageenan in it. I said it's better and a step up from the carb eating and junk. And see, we have to keep perspective. Most people coming to keto are coming from a crappy garbage diet. So they've been eating junk. Let's just put it that way. It's just junk. And so if we get them off the junk and onto something like heavy whipping cream, or really anything that is a step off of the bad food bandwagon and onto the real food bandwagon, it's a win. And I think we've got to be kinder to people as they're making that jump off of the train wreck that is the SAD diet and onto what could be exactly what they've been looking for in the keto diet. But if they're discouraged early on, oh, heavy whipping cream, it has this and this and this, so therefore it's not, they'll give up and they'll go back to SAD, and they'll just stick their nose up in the air of, well, if that's the way I'm going to have to eat and it's got all these restrictions, I'm just not going to do it. We got to stop that. We've got to stop, because it's an indirect judgment if you stop and think about it. When you're judging people and they don't know, they're trying to learn what this is all about. I'm trying to help my cousin Robbie right now, who's going through keto, and some of the things that I'm teaching, it's like he can't wrap his head around it completely yet. He's getting there. He's doing a great job, but it's just one of those things that the newbies need the support, not the judgment. Sara Slimp Keto says, we all refine as we go. It's good to remember where we started and extend that grace, especially to new members. Exactly, Sarah. That's what I was just talking about. Ashton says, I'm a type 2 diabetic. I keep away from grain products, gluten-free or not. And you know that about yourself because you know that's how they respond in your body negatively. Mama Ors, I'm going to say that for now. I'm choosing not to eat something. Exactly. It's definitely something. It's a mantra that you reframe the argument. I can't eat that. Well, no, I choose not to eat that because I care about my health. And then if you say that, I'm choosing not to have whatever, the holidays are coming up soon. You're going to have parties and family gatherings and things. I am choosing not to have that. If somebody asks you why you're not having the whatever crappy garbage, I'm choosing not to do it because I'm making a choice about my health. Oh, but it's the holidays. There's no dieting on the holidays. I'm not dieting. I'm living. You can reframe the message so that their negative becomes a positive for you in why you're making the choices that you're making. I've been doing organic as much as I can. Tastes better. Yeah, it does taste better. There's a lot of wisdom out there. Love your rants. Watch some great stuff from Low Carb Universe earlier. Awesome. All right, so bottom line, you guys, there is no such thing as a keto food. So the next time you see someone say, that's not keto, that's what I want to say to those people. Get over yourselves, people. It's not about the food. It's about the way your body reacts to that food. I've always wanted to do a raspberry on Jimmy Rants, so I just did it. That's it, you guys, for this Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website, and you can access 3 different ways to watch this Jimmy Rants. You can watch live on Instagram. I'm at Living Low Carb Man, so go check that out. It's up there for 24 hours on Instagram. And then you can also watch it on YouTube, where we have all the Jimmy Rants housed. And then the brand new Jimmy Rants podcast is now available on Apple Podcasts and wherever you listen to podcasts. So go subscribe, you guys. JimmyRants.com has all of the links for all of those things. And until next time, we'll see you then.